The Edify Show with special guest, showrunner Alfonso Moreno. And now, the host of The Edify Show, Elliot Wallach.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of The Edify Show. I am especially talking to you guys that are already going through When Calls the Heart withdrawals. I know we just saw the end of season 12. Typically, it would be another year to experience new stories from the world of When Calls the Heart. Good news, there is another series from the same universe created by Jeanette Oke coming up April 3rd on Pure Flix, April 6th on the Great American Family Channel, When Hope Calls. Now, some of you may not know this. This might shock some of you. The showrunner for When Hope Calls is a guy named Alfonso Moreno. He was also the showrunner for 3 seasons of When Calls the Heart, and I have him here today to talk to him about all things When Calls the Heart and all things When Hope Calls. Alfonso, thanks so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
When I think of the showrunners of When Calls the Heart, you're the one that sort of stands out because you were there the longest. I'm certain you ended up learning a lot more about 1900s Canada than you ever expected to.
Hey, I did, and it's I love one of the many reasons I love writing is because you learn about what you're writing, and you have to become over the course of my life I've on the practice I'm a lawyer by trade, but I learned so much about different storylines that we would write, or on NCIS how the military police work. So it was a whole new experience for me, and it allowed me to tap into like this muscle that I didn't even know I had, that I really enjoyed, and that was this family friendly sort of but redemptive quality of these shows. That the emotion. I mean, a lot of what I'd written before were sometimes thrillers, sometimes action, but this show really allowed me to tap into this writing emotion, which I found I really enjoyed. And for me, it's always the true test when I'm in a writer's room as to whether something's working or not. If I start talking and I get choked up as I'm saying it, then I say, okay, that's going to work, because I can't even say it without getting choked up. So that's always been my sort of barometer of how whether stories are emotional or not, is if I get teary-eyed, and I'm often writing and I get teary-eyed. And so I can honestly say that When Calls the Heart, and now my new show When Hope Calls, it's I've gotten teary much more than I've ever have in my life writing these stories. It's been an experience.
Could you tell the audience what When Hope Calls is about? Because a lot of people are just completely unfamiliar with it, maybe even shocked to find out there's another story from Jeanette Oke's universe that's available to watch.
When Hope Calls is this sort of the center or heartbeat of When Hope Calls is an orphanage, but it's an orphanage that, unlike any other, it was built brought into a home, so it's very much a home environment, not an institutional environment. And it's this orphanage in this small town that has a ranching community around it. So one difference between When Hope Calls and When Calls the Heart is the industry. And When Calls the Heart, it's a lumber. It started out as a coal town, and then it became a lumber town. In When Hope Calls, it's a ranching community. So a lot more horses and ranches that we see. A lot. It's a little more remote than Hope Valley. It's a smaller town, so there's a car or two, but it's mostly horses and wagons, and they don't have a phone yet. I introduced the telephone in season 6, and this town isn't big enough. They've talked about someday maybe getting one. So it's even though it's the same time period, it's even a little more remote and rustic than Hope Valley.
I know Jeanette Oke had a real heart for orphans, and she was very excited about that direction. Did she have any input in that, or what was the genesis of that?
It all comes down to emotion. So it was I was trying to come up with an idea that would tap emotion, right? And I thought, during the course of it, you come up with different possibilities, but I just thought ultimately landed on the possibility, well, how much emotion can you get from two sisters who were separated and raised in different circumstances and come together and have to learn about each other and grow together again, and are in a position to do better than the orphanages that they were in, and raise these children in a way that, that they faced all these hardships, but now they're going to have this loving environment. So I just thought, who better than two women who were orphans themselves, running an orphanage, and also having the challenge of them being extremely young and getting to know each other at the same time in a town that initially wasn't accepting, but then again comes to love these people and accept them. It was all about what's the most emotional value I can find from something. So.
What a genius idea. So you're the one that came up with that. The whole that is so well, because I know Jeanette Oak loved it. She loved the whole idea of it. I mean, truthfully, if you're going to go to an orphanage, wouldn't you want to go with these two loving sisters? I mean, plus they have experiences with two different orphanages, and then to come together. Yeah, I just think the opportunities are just endless there. For just all kinds of cool directions and everything. Plus, the place just seems like it's crawling with Mounties. One of the things that I remember, and maybe we can play it, but you said this great acronym before about the things that you're looking for, and it's humor, emotion, and romance, and then you have this acronym, HER. When did you come up with that?
I came up with that while I was being interviewed for the showrunner job, right? So I watched all of the episodes before going. So I watched 4 seasons, and watching it, I was really moved by it, and I thought, okay, what is it about this series that sort of works for me? And I want to then take that to sort of another level if I can. But that's where I thought, okay, I find it the humor and the emotion and the romance. So I just thought, wow, it might have started romance and emotion and humor, and thought, wait, I'll move it around and come up with an acronym.
That's the part that I find so interesting, is it's just such a different, it had to be kind of a big shift, right? Because not just in the kind of stuff you've been writing, but all of a sudden you're responsible for so many, like you just immersed yourself in that universe for so long.
Wow. And what was interesting about season 5 is, talk about emotional. The episode before the finale, I have a Mountie come up to Elizabeth at the very end and give her the news. And we go to a wide shot, and she just falls to her knees on the street. And I knew that the audience wasn't going to necessarily believe that was the case, that he was gone, right? So, in between, during that week between episodes, they were saying, I can't believe it. He can't be dead. He's not. But then we showed that episode, the finale, and I can honestly say I have never been more emotional on the set than I was on that particular when we were shooting that episode, because we have this scene where all these other widows are trying to console Elizabeth, and they're talking about their own experience of losing their husband. And as we're shooting that scene, the actresses are delivering their lines, and I'm off, right next to the director, and I'm teary-eyed as they're delivering their lines. And the actresses, as their characters, were crying as they were saying, what their own experience of missing their husbands and what had happened. And then what would happen is, because we have different angles, the director would yell, "Cut," and then all the actresses would leave the set, and they'd be dabbing their eyes as they're leaving. And then we turn the cameras around and bring the actresses back in. And now we have different actresses saying, their lines. And I'm getting teary-eyed every single time they
right.
say it. It was so emotional. And I know it reached the audience because they were emotional. And then we had the scene of the burial, and it was like, the nature somehow, and the environment just helped, with that moment, because this fog rolled in, a very low rolling, right, that hugged the ground, that just added to the sense of mourning for everyone. It's just like the director couldn't believe our sort of good fortune of having the kind of weather that we had. It was like it was perfect for the moment. I mean, it was just his choice of leaving, so but I feel we made a very memorable episode out of it. And then as a result, also, we brought in new actors, new Mountie, we brought in Nathan, we brought in Lucas. So, the next season, I just sort of was able to add a new sort of approach to the storylines, right, with the whole new characters. And that was gratifying.
Well, yeah, I think that's kind of what I want to make sure that the audience understands who I'm talking to, because when you watch Wind Calls the Heart and you go season 1, season 2, season 3, and then season 4, and then it was all of this turmoil, that happened over the course of season 5, season 6, season 7, that it wasn't like you asked for the turmoil, but the way you handled it, I will say as a fan that I thought it was just masterful while you were working on When Hope Calls. I'd love to back up a little bit and just learn a bit about you. That's the first I've heard. I didn't know you were a lawyer by trade. And here, how did that happen? How did you become a lawyer and then go, I'm a writer?
When I was the very first thing I ever wanted to be in life, when I was like 6 years old, people asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "I want to be a writer." So I was always the first thing I ever wanted to be, and really the only, as I would call, the only thing I ever wanted to be was a writer. Although, oddly, my mother said that she once found a paper I wrote in elementary school that said I wanted to be a writer and a lawyer, which I don't remember that part at all.
You sure your mom didn't write lawyer in there?
She might have. So I went to film school as an undergrad to UCLA, and when I finished film school as an undergrad, I thought I can't see a path to becoming a writer right now from film school. I just didn't see it isn't like you go to engineering school and then they you graduate and there's someone offering you an engineering job. It doesn't work that way in this industry. So I just didn't. I couldn't see how I could do it. So I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to law school, and that way, I could maybe end up producing my own work. I could be in a position where I'm sort of the initiator more. And so I went to law school. And now all along I thought, I'll go back to film school and get a master's, which I did. So I went to law school. I ended up practicing for 3 years, and then I went back and got a master's degree in screenwriting from UCLA. So I was, and then oddly for me, what had happened, what I didn't realize is that my experience as a lawyer right away helped me as a writer, because within just a few weeks of graduating from film school, I got my first job, which is pretty unheard of. It's just, good fortune. They were looking for, it was a cop show, but they wanted this rookie cop to have an experience in the courtroom, like her first experience being grilled by a defense attorney and how that would work. So they were looking for, the fact that I was a lawyer helped me with that. And then that actually ended up getting me jobs as the practice, as the guardian, being, having that law school background. And then, that segued to the police shows. And in this industry, you sort of, you are what you've last wrote. So I was a legal show writer, and then I was a cop show writer. And now I'm very happily a family show writer.
Although I would imagine on the practice, you probably learned a lot more lawyer jokes than you went in there with.
Yeah, and I actually learned more law than because law school is just like the starting ground, but then you just keep practicing it in a way when you're working on lawyer shows.
You could submit that to UCLA, get some extra credit. Yeah. Did you ever have a story percolating in there, because I love a lot of those movies, The Firm, The Rainmaker. I don't know why, but for some reason Gene Hackman just died, and I'm thinking of Narrow Margin. If you've never seen that movie, it's terrific. You got one in there that you always wanted to do one like that, or are you?
No, I probably did them. Because I worked on so many of the episodes of, and on the practice, most of the writers were lawyers.
Do you have a personal preference or taste in a particular kind of genre, or
No, when I started on One Calls the Heart, I had done so much procedural. I was ready to be doing something other than procedural because I had done that so much. And to this day, I'm no fun watching something with my wife because I'll say, "Oh," and now I edit myself. I say, "Well, this person did it, or that this is going to happen. That's going to happen," because I could see, I could see it all on a wall, right? How they're putting it together. So it's,
Right. Right, right. So do you find that you're enjoying the like the When Hope Calls, those stories more
I
than
enjoy I enjoy the emotion, writing to emotion, and I enjoy the non-procedural aspects of the storytelling. Right? We'll have continuing storylines, but it isn't, you know, it isn't all self-contained one episode, maybe totally different storyline. It's the continuous stories and the characters. I like telling those stories.
do you know when you're starting your journey, you sit down, you're going to write this series, do you know basically where you're going or does the story kind of unfold to you as you're kind of creating it?
It comes to life in the writers' room, and sometimes if you want to end on a cliffhanger that you're going to build to that cliffhanger. But so much isn't revealed until you're working through it, right? Because you come up with a storyline in episode 3 and you think, wow, we could take that storyline and then take it here and then take it there. So it's like, and especially in I think about season 5, if you ever watched the Lego movies, like season 5 for me was because I came on, you know, right as they were filming the first 2 episodes, and I had to like start from there. But I always think of the Lego movie where they're like being chased, and then they just throw these Legos up, and it
Right.
makes a bridge, and then they run across the bridge. So much of it was like on the fly. You're throwing things up, and you make it happen, and you keep going. It's quite the marathon.
Was there a particular episode that you're particularly proud of or that really spoke to you that you remember in 5, 6, or
Well,
7?
the I mean, they're all like your kids, so you don't want to like I will say that the Jack, the one I was telling you about earlier at season 5, the end of season 5 was really memorable because of the emotion uh, that it actually brought for the audience and for me watching it and putting it together. And then, the beginning of season 6, where it was a whole new world, was also fun. Bringing in, the Nathan and Lucas characters who I named after my 2 sons, Nathan and Lucas. So they were happy about that. And then
No
introducing Allie,
kidding.
who I named after my daughter. So, so you get those are little prerogatives you have it as a showrunner. But it's just creating this new avenue for the show, this new approach where we're introducing new characters, and with this new characters we introduce new drama, new emotion. So the kick starting the series with episode 6 was also very memorable for me.
Wow, I feel like I just like got this big scoop, like I broke the story. Has anybody else known that? That it was named after, have you ever heard that? No, no, I got the head hardy here right in front of me saying she'd never heard that. That is really neat. And so what's so cool is to see it have this continued life, something that you were a humongous part of, 13 seasons and no end in sight. And
Yeah.
it wouldn't it wouldn't be there. And then now you get to have this phenomenal branch off for When Hope Calls. What do you hope people get from When Hope Calls that they got from you with When Calls the Heart?
It's that acronym, this humor, emotion, romance. It's there. It's all those are the elements that you'll see in When Hope Calls, the same elements that you see in When Calls the Heart. I think it's that part is very much the same tone, the same this approach, the same emotion. It's fun. It's fun to write. It's fun to see come together.
Yeah, well, it'd be such a monumental disappointment. The thing I'm disappointed is there's only 6. That we got to make
Yeah.
sure that the fans, the Hardys, get out. If there was ever a show to support, it's this one because you're going to go out and you're going to support the 6, and then you're going to have a whole other show to watch. And everybody knows we need a lot more good family friendly content, you know. But again, thank you so much again just for what you do and just for being on the program and taking the time to talk with us about it.
It's been a pleasure, Elliot. Thanks.
All right, you guys, When Hope Calls comes out April 3rd on Pure Flix. If you're already subscribed to Pure Flix, you get to see it April 3rd. April 6th on the Great American Family Channel. And you can go to whenhopecalls.com to learn more. And then don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, hearties.com. We'll let you know about all of the events coming up, all the interviews coming up. And until then, we'll see you next time right here on The Edify Show.
Tune in next week for Hearties TV Tuesday. Elliot will be interviewing Natasha Burnett on the set of When Calls the Heart. Don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube page. And never miss a thing when you register at hearties.com, where people around the world are coming together to support inspiring entertainment. And we'll see you next week on The Edify Show.